Hello there. Yeah, well, I just wanted to quickly go over statute bar debt, the difference between England and Scotland, or England and Wales and Scotland, and also, just to actually explain when, let's call it the clock, when the clock starts ticking down. And I've got a presentation, I'm going to go over it and explain it, and got case law as well. So this is not an opinion, this is settled law. What do I mean by settled law? Well, it's been proven in the higher courts. So there is the case law that settles the law, and all of the lower courts must follow the precedent that's set by the higher courts. So, we're looking at, we'll go over the presentation anyway, because it's nice to be able to like tie it in with images and help it sort of like settle in the brain. But we're looking at the correct time, or how long is it before it is statute barred, and what does that actually mean anyway? A lot of people say it gets written off, it disappears and everything like that, and that's not correct. The debt itself does not get written off, and it doesn't disappear. But let's just say that you had a debt collection agency, I don't know, PRA for instance. Now they've got themselves on into a debt. Then you've discovered that it is statute barred. It's gone out of the date of limitations under the Limitations Act. What it is it's not enforceable in a court of law. So they can still ask for it. They can still kind of pester you and everything like that, but they cannot, make false claims. They cannot say they're going to take you to court, and they literally can't enforce it in a court. So yeah, I mean, obviously I know what people are saying. It's like it's written off, it's disappeared. It's still there in the background, but there's nothing you can actually do about it. That they can actually do about it, as in enforcing it in a court. Okay, so that's really what it's down to. Now the difference between like England and Wales and Scotland, it's a time difference. So in Scotland it's only 5 years. So literally from the date, and I'm not going to say it now, I'm going to go over the presentation to explain it, but from the date when it starts right the way through till boom time 5 years later, then it's statute barred under the Limitations Act, and it's not enforceable in a court of law. And it's 6 years for England and Wales. So let me just share my screen, and we will go over the presentation. So if I pull that up there, take that out of the picture. Okay, so comprehension of the statute barred debt and its 6-year limitation. Now that is, like I said just before, is for England and Wales, and it's actually only 5 in Scotland. So just bear that in mind, okay? Right, now then, what is a statute barred debt? What does that actually physically mean? So a debt that is too old to be enforced in a court, that's what I have just actually said. And it comes under the Limitation Act of 1980. So it's governed by the Limitation Act of 1980. So anything that goes over 5 in Scotland or 6 in England and Wales, then it is no longer able to be enforced in a court. Now, this is the part that a lot of people get confused at, and a lot of nonsense is talked about, and a lot of these stories and everything like that. So when does it start? So if you look at point 4, it starts from the cause of action, not from the default notice. So what's a cause of action? It literally is the moment you have not paid. So let's just say that it is the 1st of January, what are we on now? 2025, and I'm due to pay that day, and I do not pay it. That means that the last payment I made was on the 1st of December 2024. Okay, so from the 1st of December 2025, that, because I haven't paid for it, that there kept it up to date, that is a cause of action. The cause of action starts the day you miss the first payment and never pay it again. That it's not the default notice. So let's just say that happened. I haven't paid from the 1st of January 2025, and the bank itself send a default notice, I don't know, say like 2 months, 3 months later. that is not when the clock starts ticking down. It starts ticking from the start of the cause of action, which was when I did not pay it, which is the 1st of January 2025. Simple and clear. Okay. Then you have in Scotland 5 years from that very time, or 6 years from that very time in England and Wales. And then after that, creditors cannot legally sue. That means they cannot enforce it in a court of law. So when exactly did the clock start to tick down for yours or anyone's debt? So remember this is, and we've got the case law to show you. I'm going to show you it in a second. It's not from the default notice. Okay, so it doesn't matter what anyone tells you, and there's a lot of it gets put on social media, videos get done, everything like that. But the limitation clock starts when the default notice, it does not start when the default notice is issued. It starts when you miss that payment. That is the cause of action. So you missed the first payment from the 1st of January 2025, for instance, as an example. That is when it starts. So it doesn't matter if it's 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months after that, when they send you a default notice, it's already started from the moment you've missed that payment. Right? There's no other way that it can start. It doesn't matter what anybody else can say or do. We're talking about in the law, and that's the way it is. Okay. And then what happens? It's then what the mean of cause and action. They can then, under the Consumer Credit Act, they can actually ask for full repayment. So, but it's when you've missed that first payment. All right. So here we told you we had the case law. So here is a key case: Doyle versus PRA Group UK Limited. Court of Appeal clarification. So it's in 2019. So it's not, any like 1620. This is a modern case comparatively. The Court of Appeal confirmed that limitation begins at the missed payment, not the default notice. Legal precedent for creditors and debtors. The court ruled the cause of action arose when payment was first missed and not rectified, which means, you didn't pay it again. And if you've missed it and you haven't paid for 5 years and 10 months in England and Wales, and you pay one payment, it starts again at 0, and then you have to wait another 6 years. So it's going to become enforceable again. So as long as you haven't made a payment, or you've actually agreed in writing that you do owe it, right? So, people writing to you about it, debt collectors, that is not how it can reset the clock. I've seen that said many times. I've seen it. Don't send an SCR, that starts the clock. That's nonsense, right? If you write to somebody and say, like, I agree, I owe this money, and therefore, when that is going to reset the clock, obviously. Or when you make a payment, even if it's only £1, 50 pence, whatever it would be, it resets the clock to 0. And then you've got to wait for the full 5 or 6 years, depends from Scotland or England and Wales. So that was the case law there, and supported by past cases, echoes the rulings in Lloyds Bank versus Margolis or however you pronounce that. It's totally up to you. And Burroughs versus Brown as early as 1881. So they are the past cases, but we have, like I say, a relatively modern case in the Doyle versus PRA Group. So it solidifies the case law exactly there. It's settled law. You cannot argue with it. Well, you can do what you like, but I mean, you will lose the argument. There it sits. So what can reset the clock? I've just told you there. But payment, or like I've said, if you agree to it in writing, that in fact you definitely owe the debt. So if you, as the debtor, you make any payment, £1, 50 pence, whatever it is, okay, or you actually physically write down and acknowledge the debt, then it restarts again. So to acknowledge it, you're going to say, yes, I agree, I owe that debt. As soon as you've said that, then it's back to 0, or you've made that tiny little payment, even that. So, like I say, a written acknowledgement, it must be signed and clearly or clearly attributable to you, the debtor, as it were. So, literally, if you wrote a letter and signed it and said, we agree, we owe the debt, then you're back to in trouble again. But and this is probably more important because this would be more normal. What doesn't actually start it off again? What doesn't reset the clock? And it's like a default notice. So the bank sends you a default notice many months after you haven't paid, for instance. So that does not reset the clock. So when we have the banks, for instance, writing letters, pay me now, or even when it's sold to or allegedly assigned or sold to a debt collection agency, and they start writing to you, that does not reset the limit. And also any file updates, credit file updates, telling people you haven't paid, and that does not reset the limit. And when you actually send out SCRs or challenge in any way whatsoever, that also does not reset the limit on the limitation clock for the statute barred debt. So let's have a look at a couple of common myths. You get told, it's all over social media, all right? The myth, the clock starts at default notice. False. Okay, that is from case law. The limitation period begins when a payment is first missed, not when the default notice is sent. So when you've missed a payment and not corrected that, i.e., you're always only a couple of weeks later paid it late, right? If you've missed a payment, you haven't corrected that, then that is when the actual limitation period begins. Letters or calls restart the clock. Wrong. No, no, no. All right, I've said it before, letters coming to you or from you, as long as it's not saying, yes, I most definitely owe that, please, and sign it. No, right? But if it's you sending an SCR or it's them sending you any letters or anything like that, phone calls, that does not restart the clock. So do not listen to people saying that to you. And all debts are the same. Well, we know that's not true anyway, don't we? So some debts, you've got mortgages, which are completely different, by the way, to the you can get it the statute of limitations, but it's much longer. So we're only going on here now about unsecured consumer debt, nothing to do with tax or council tax even, or utility bills. All of that is different. Now, you may call it a debt. I'm just talking about consumer credit debt, right? So it's credit cards, bank loans, personal finance, catalogs, that type of thing. That's what we are talking about, consumer debt, which is unsecured. And all of these different ones that we've mentioned, mortgages and tax and council, is all got different periods for different things. Okay, so that's just bear that in mind, that what we're actually talking about here. So quick summary then. Obviously, what you should do, if you do believe that you have got a statute barred debt, then you're going to have to tell them. You tell them exactly when it was that you actually made the last payment. So if it's past the 5 years, Scotland, 6 years on there, then you will tell them in a notice, this is statute barred. You can tell them there, it's the Limitations Act 1980, as per the case law, Doyle versus PRA Group. So, and there it is. And that's how you would actually tell them, that you've got a statute barred debt. And the thing is, there are some debt collectors that specialize in buying very old or even statute barred debt. And then they send letters to people, and it's just a normal thing. It's panic sets in, fear sets in, lack of the knowledge that there is such a thing as a statute of limitations, and people start paying again. You pay that one payment, that £1 to them, right? Then this keeps that, it restarts that debt thing. So that should be something that you want to be thinking about. If you have things like an IVA or anything like that, and you say, oh, that's great, I'm only paying £1 a month, but it also makes sure that that debt clock never, ever starts. You're always still live, right? 6 years that you have to wait for that. So just bear that in mind when people are trying to sell you an IVA. So if I just take that away from there, remove that, put me back in there we go. So just a short video, just let everybody know the reality of statute barred debt and what it really means, how it's actually can come about, and how to start the clock or restart the clock, right? Depends if what you've done. So make sure you don't make any payments if you're coming up to that limitation, and it goes out. Scotland, the 5 years, England and Wales, the 6 years. So what we'll do is we'll put the link to our private group, Checkmate the Matrix, into the description. So this one's going to go up onto YouTube as well as on the actual private group, full of information on there, how to use equity, as well as GDPR and statute against the any debt enforcement agents that are giving you grief. Okay, so thank you very much, and hope you enjoy.